We now move on to our next chart. But remember that if you are watching this Data University series as a playlist, it is crucial to see the videos in a randomized format. Why? Because the transition points between different charts is where your brain gets stretched to accommodate a much broader and deeper scope of information and analytical capacity. Even if the next video that arrives is a chart that you have seen before, the fact that the one before it and the one after it are unpredictable and different is part of the process of creating a broader and deeper intelligence, and your intelligence will increase very quickly. Not merely quantitative and analytical intelligence, but all types of intelligence. This is one of the fastest ways your intelligence can increase, and this playlist is available for free other than whatever ads you have to watch. It's also suitable for children as young as 10 or 11 if you have children. So how could you not watch it? Spend 1 hour in this playlist here and there. 1 hour today, 1 hour next week, and so forth. Now we have enough videos that the randomized nature has a huge number of combinations, and revisiting the playlist from time to time will continue to increase your intelligence, particularly as I add more videos as more links in this chain, and therefore a greater set of combinations of a randomized playlist. So again, when you have a tool like this that's virtually free to increase your intelligence, how could you not watch it? Now moving on to this chart. This is from the Automotive Technology Report that the United States Environmental Protection Agency puts out each year. A link for this is in the description box below. And this is a chart of two different eras of cars, 1978, the dark blue data points, and 2021, the light blue data points. This vertical axis is real-world CO2 emissions, and this is the unit, and the horizontal axis is horsepower of the automobile engine. And as you can see, 1978 automobiles were still very primitive technologically from an engine efficiency and power point of view. The ones that emitted a high amount of emissions were still only 150, 170 horsepower. It is very, very unimpressive relative to what we have today in 2021, where even 500 to 700 horsepower cars emit less CO2 emissions than 100 horsepower cars of 1978. And it's not that long ago, 1978. Even the cars that are 1500 horsepower, something that you could not purchase at all in 1978, emit fewer emissions than quite a few of the cars of 1978. These lines are the trend lines of each distribution. And notice how some of these blue dots are at zero emissions. These are electrical vehicles. This is where the first principles of technology and economics are visualized very nicely. This dark blue trend line, as we see, is almost vertical. But as technology advanced, as the technomic medium of the world fostered more innovation to become more fuel efficient and have fewer emissions, this trend line started to bend downwards. And as it bent downwards, traveling from here in 1978 to here in 2021, you not only get productization of certain extreme cars because the emissions are not all that high, even if it is a ridiculous 1500 horsepower. This bending down has caused some of these dots to fall off. And even though this is a chart, you could see this as these dots falling off of the line because EVs, electrical vehicles, have become technologically viable. You could predict by the early 80s the movement of this line from 1978 over the next few years up to the mid 80s, how fast this line would move to a more horizontal distribution, and therefore these dots falling out because a zero emission car becomes viable. Under this principle, you could in fact predict in the 1980s when electrical vehicles will finally happen, the 2020s, just on this trend. Making sophisticated technological and economic predictions is not that hard once you understand this type of first principle thinking. In the 2030s, this line will be much more impressive still. It might be flat. There might not be any cars under 200 horsepower because 200 horsepower cars are all no emission. Eventually, the vast majority of cars will be electrical cars, and all of these dots will be down here at the zero emission horizontal line. Doesn't mean all cars will be 1500 horsepower, but 500 horsepower will be very, very commoditized quite soon, even though that was far beyond the most powerful sports cars of 1978. If you remember television shows from the early 80s, the Corvette was considered to be a muscular sports car because it had 200 horsepower. and it was marketed as a glamorous, powerful, fast sports car. Now 200 is nothing. If this is a Corvette over here, today that is what is called often a golf cart, even though it's the same horsepower, only 43 years later. And that is why the productization of electrical vehicles did happen right on schedule as per this measurement. And it could have been predicted with impressive accuracy some decades in advance. Thanks for watching.